I want to start today with a question that might feel a little accusatory, so brace yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at your tires? And I don't mean just, a casual glance as you walked past. I mean, did you really look at them to see if they were, well, round?
Huh. If we're being honest, probably the last time the little pressure light came on the dashboard, or the last time I wrote a check to buy new ones.
Exactly. For, I'd say, 90% of us, the drive begins the second our butt hits the seat. You open the door, throw your bag in, buckle up, turn the key, and you're gone. But the material we've got today implies that by the time you even sit down, you've already skipped the most important part of driving.
And that really is the core argument of the sources we're analyzing today. We're looking at this guide on essential pre-drive safety checks. And before you tune out thinking, oh, this is for long-haul truckers or mechanics, this is actually designed specifically for the daily commuter.
The person rushing to the grocery store. Or just driving to the office.
Especially them. The source argues that we need to shift our whole mental timeline of the drive to the left. So the drive doesn't start when the engine turns over, it starts when you walk out your front door. It's about moving from a reactive mindset, dealing with problems as they explode, to a proactive one.
I have to admit, when I first saw the list, my knee-jerk reaction was, I just don't have time for this. I mean, I barely have time to make coffee. Am I really supposed to perform a whole ritual every time I get in my sedan?
That's the common pushback.
Yeah.
It feels excessive.
But as we unpack this, you'll see we aren't talking about a 20-minute inspection with a clipboard and a flashlight. We're talking about 30 seconds of observation. And it happens while you're already walking to the car. It's about changing how you walk to the car, not really adding a new task to your day.
Okay, I'm listening. But I'm still a little skeptical about that every single time rule.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the specifics. The guide breaks this down spatially, which I appreciate. It starts at the very bottom, under the vehicle, which is the blindest of blind spots. I mean, unless you drop your keys, you never look there.
Right. And the source puts fluids and leaks right at the top. Now, I see a puddle, I just assume it's rain or maybe the AC running. How are we supposed to know the difference without a chemistry set?
It's actually simpler than it sounds. Think of it as being a forensic investigator for about 2 seconds. You're looking for what I call the rainbow of trouble. You see a puddle, just look at the color and the texture.
Okay, walk us through the rainbow.
All right, so if it's clear and it looks like water, that's almost always just condensation from your air conditioner.
Yeah.
Totally fine, no stress.
Yeah.
But if you see a reddish tint, that's likely transmission fluid or power steering fluid. That's a do not drive situation. If it's bright green or maybe orange,
Yeah.
coolant, you drive without that, your engine overheats and, well, it melts itself.
Yeah.
And if it's amber to dark brown or black, that's oil.
So it's not just, oh, the car's leaking. It's more like the car is bleeding.
Exactly. And here's the why that matters to you listening. Finding that puddle in your driveway is an annoyance. It means you're taking an Uber to work. But if you don't spot it, and that transmission failure happens on the highway at 70 miles per hour, that isn't an annoyance. That's a life-threatening crisis. You are trading a morning inconvenience for a potential catastrophe.
That really puts it in perspective. It's just risk management.
Yeah.
What about the tires? The source mentions checking them under the vehicle section too.
This is where people get hung up. They think, I'm not getting a pressure gauge out in the rain. And the source isn't asking you to do that. This is a visual check.
But can you really tell if a tire is low just by looking at it?
You can tell if it's dangerously low. You're looking for the pancake effect. If the sidewall is bulging out a lot at the bottom, or if the rim is looking uncomfortably close to the pavement, you have a problem.
I guess the logic is the same as the fluids. Better to change a flat in your driveway than on the side of the interstate.
Or realizing the handling is all mushy when you try to take a sharp turn. A tire might look fine when you parked at 6 p.m., but if you picked up a slow leak on the way home, by 7 a.m. it's a real hazard. A quick glance confirms you actually have 4 functional wheels.
Okay, there's one more thing under the vehicle that the source mentions, and it's a bit more biological. Living hazards.
Animals.
I always think of this as a winter thing. Cats looking for warmth from the engine.
It is huge in winter because a warm engine block is basically a heated blanket for a stray cat. They'll crawl up into the wheel wells or sit on top of the tires. But even in summer, animals seek shade under cars.
And if you just jump in and gun it.
It's horrific. I mean, you risk killing the animal, obviously, which is traumatic. But you can also cause significant damage to your own vehicle. Belts can get derailed, fans can break. It's just a mess.
So the advice is just look.
Just bend at the waist as you approach. A 2-second sweep. Clear tires, no puddles, no little eyes looking back at you.
Okay, so we've cleared the undercarriage. Now we move to the perimeter scan. The guide calls this around the vehicle. And this is where I have to play devil's advocate again.
Go for it.
I'm parked at the grocery store. It's crowded. I have a cart full of bags. Do I really have to look like a crazy person walking a full lap around my car before I get in?
I get the social awkwardness, I really do. But think of it this way. You don't have to march around it like a soldier on guard duty. It's all about your approach trajectory. Instead of walking in a straight line to the driver's door, you take a slightly wider arc. Maybe you approach from the rear or the passenger side and just loop around.
Ah, so you're just seeing the other three sides of the car that you usually ignore.
Precisely. Because once you sit in that driver's seat, you are effectively putting on blinders. Your field of view is just slashed.
The source lists some specific stationary hazards here. Low walls, poles, cables, ditches.
These are the silent killers of insurance premiums. A concrete bollard or a low garden wall might be perfectly visible when you're standing up, but sit down in a modern car, buckle up, look out the window. That wall is now below your belt line. It just doesn't exist to your eyes anymore.
And then you put it in reverse, your high crunch, and your whole day is ruined.
Exactly. That Walkaround builds a little 3D map in your head. You know the pole is there, so you don't even need to see it to avoid it.
The guide also mentions smaller items. Toys. The classic tricycle in the driveway.
Or the skateboard. Or a rake someone left out. I mean, if you back over a rake, the handle snaps up and just smacks the car. It's like a slapstick comedy routine that ends with a $1,000 bodywork bill.
But this segues into the darkest and most critical part of the source material. It stops being about property damage and starts being about life and death, the human element.
Yes. The source is explicit. No toddlers near the vehicle.
This terrified me. It's called a front-over or back-over accident, right?
Sadly, yes. And we need to talk about vehicle design here. Cars are getting bigger. We all love our SUVs and trucks. But the blind zones on those vehicles are just, they're massive.
I saw a demonstration once where they lined up toddlers in front of a large SUV. The driver couldn't see any of them until the 10th kid.
That is the reality. You could have an entire kindergarten class sitting in the blind spot of a lifted truck. If a child is playing near the wheel or just sitting on the driveway tying their shoe, they're invisible from the driver's seat.
So the walkaround isn't just a recommendation. It's basically the only way to verify you aren't about to kill someone.
That is the gravity of it. If you move that vehicle without checking the perimeter, you're rolling the dice. And the source advises that if you see children, you secure them. You don't just say, hey, move away.
Yeah.
You make sure they are held by another adult or are inside the car with you before you even release the brake.
It's really sobering. It shifts the tone from maintenance to responsibility.
That's the whole pilot mindset we talked about.
Yeah.
You were responsible for the machine and the space all around it.
Okay, let's lighten the mood slightly, only slightly, and talk about the car itself. The vehicle body. The source lists loose panels.
Right. Sounds trivial, but it can create chaos.
It lists the trunk, the hood, doors, and the petrol flap, or the fuel door.
Let's talk about that fuel door. We've all seen it. Someone driving down the highway with a little door just flapping in the wind because they were distracted leaving the gas station.
I always try to signal them, but they never seem to look over.
It's a distraction. But think about the hood. What if you popped the hood to check your oil or maybe add washer fluid and you didn't slam it all the way home?
That little safety catch is the only thing holding it down.
You hit highway speeds, the wind gets under the lip, and suddenly, bam! The hood flies up, smashes into your windshield, and wraps right over the roof. You were instantly blind at 65 miles per hour.
Talk about a nightmare scenario. So, checking that everything is flush and latched is vital. But there's another hazard on the body of the car that I found fascinating because, again, it's just physics. The roof hazard.
Ah, yes. The snow missile.
The source specifically mentions anything on the roof, but it focuses on snow. We see this all the time, the igloo drivers. They clear a tiny porthole on the windshield, but leave a mattress of snow on the roof.
It drives me crazy. And the source explains exactly why it's so dangerous. It's Newton's first law of motion.
Okay, let's break down the physics of it.
So you're driving, the car is moving forward, the snow on the roof is moving forward at the same speed. Friction is holding it there. But then, the car warms up. That bottom layer of snow melts into water. Now your friction drops to almost zero.
You've created a water slide on your roof.
Exactly. Then you hit the brakes at a stoplight. The car stops. the snow. It does not stop. It keeps moving forward. It slides off the roof as one giant heavy sheet and lands directly on your windshield.
And we're not talking about fluffy snow. It's heavy, wet slush.
It lands with a heavy thud. Your wipers can't move it. It blocks out all the light. You're suddenly inside a dark cave in the middle of traffic, and you can't see a thing.
And the person behind you probably rear-ends you because you just slammed on the brakes in a panic.
Or the other way. You accelerate onto the highway, and huge chunks of that ice fly off backward and smash the windshield of the person behind you.
So clean the roof. It's not just about being tidy. It's about not blinding yourself or someone else.
Correct. Debris, leaves, snow, get it off.
Okay, moving on to visibility. We've cleared the roof. Now let's look at the glass. The windows section. The source lists obstructions like bird droppings.
Which creates a blind spot. If a bird gets you right in the driver's line of sight, that's a coin-sized area where you can't see a cyclist or a pedestrian.
But here's the one that I thought was really clever. Pamphlets placed under the wiper.
The urban trap.
We've all had it happen. You park downtown, you come back, and there's a flyer for "We Buy Junk Cars" or a takeout menu stuck under your wiper.
And the instinct is to get in, start the car, and maybe deal with it later. Or maybe you don't even see it from the inside.
And then it starts to rain.
And you hit the wipers. Now, paper's made of wood pulp. When it gets wet and you drag a rubber blade across it, it doesn't wipe away. It disintegrates. It smears into this milky, pulpy paste right across your windshield.
So you go from "I can see" to "I am looking through glue" in 1 second.
And using washer fluid just makes it worse. Now, you have wet glue. You have to pull over on the shoulder, which is dangerous, get out in the rain, and scrape paper pulp off your glass, all because you didn't grab that flyer during your walk around.
It's such a small thing, but the consequence is so frustrating. The source also takes a slightly darker turn here with windows. It says to check for a broken window from smash and grab.
This is where we pivot from maintenance to security.
If you see shattered glass on the ground or a broken window, obviously you don't just get in the car.
Right. If you spot that during your approach, you stop. You do not enter the vehicle. You don't know if the person who did it is still nearby. You don't know if they're crouching in the back seat. You back away and you call the authorities.
Which leads perfectly into this final section: situational awareness and security. This is where the guide really shifts from the car's mechanics to the driver's personal safety.
And this is something we often neglect because we're distracted. We're looking at our phones, we're digging for our keys, checking notifications.
The source advises scanning for suspicious persons. It says any persons lurking in the vicinity of the vehicle that may want to hijack the vehicle.
Lurking is a strong word, but it just means observing behavior. Is someone standing unusually close to your driver's door? Is someone sitting in a car next to yours with the engine running but no lights on?
It's about reading the room.
Reading the street.
Yeah.
If something feels off, trust your gut. Don't approach the car, turn around, go back into the store or the office. The pre-drive check is about verifying the environment is safe for you to enter it.
There's another specific threat mentioned here, the internal threat. The source advises checking that no criminal is hiding inside the vehicle.
This sounds like an urban legend, doesn't it? The killer in the back seat.
It's the plot of 100 horror movies. But the source treats it as a factual, necessary check.
Because while it is statistically rare, the cost of missing it is infinite. If you unlock your car and get in without looking, you have just surrendered your primary advantage, which is distance.
So just a quick glance through the back window.
Look at the floorboards, look at the back seat. If you have an SUV or a hatchback, just glance the cargo area. It takes 0 seconds if you're already doing the walk around. It's just part of the scan.
The source also mentions checking for vandalism generally, key marks, spray paint, but then it lists something that I think causes more fights than anything else. Damage from careless individuals parked next to vehicle?
The dreaded door.
Ping! We've all been there. You come back and someone is parked 3 inches from your door.
Checking for this damage before you leave is important for insurance, obviously. If you drive away, you can't prove it happened there. But it's also about checking functionality. Did they hit the mirror? Is the door handle jammed?
So let's zoom out. We've covered a lot. Fluids, tires, animals, toddlers, loose panels, snow, pamphlets, lurkers, and door dings. It feels like a massive checklist.
But let's reframe it. It's not a checklist, it's a flow.
Okay, walk us through the flow version.
You walk out of the store. Instead of staring at your phone, you look up, you scan the area, that's security. You walk toward the rear of your car, not the driver's door, that's perimeter. As you round the back, you glance the tires and under the car. Fluids, animals. You look at the back seat. Internal threat. You check the roof and the windows, snow, obstructions. You check the body panels as you reach the driver's door. You get in.
How long did that take?
Maybe 10 seconds longer than walking straight to the door with your head down.
That's the key, isn't it? It's investing 10 seconds to ensure the next 70 minutes don't end in a disaster.
And it reduces your stress. When you turn that key, you know the car is ready. You aren't wondering, is that tire low? You aren't worrying, did I leave my coffee on the roof? You've cleared your mental bandwidth to just focus on driving.
It transforms the approach to the vehicle from a mindless commute into a genuine safety ritual.
Exactly. It reminds you that you're operating a heavy, dangerous machine in a public space.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to one thing you just mentioned. We talked about checking for damage from careless individuals.
Yeah.
We tend to read that and get defensive. We think, I hope nobody hit my car, or I hope nobody was careless around me.
We always cast ourselves as the victim.
But this entire deep dive has been about responsibility.
It has. And I think there's a really profound takeaway hidden in that line about careless individuals. If we're so worried about bad parking damaging our property, are we taking the time to make sure we aren't the careless individual?
Oh, that's good.
When you park, do you center your car in the lines? Do you leave enough room for the person next to you to open their door safely? Or do you just squeeze in, cross the line, and assume it's their problem?
Because if you park badly, you're creating a chain reaction.
Exactly. The butterfly effect of the parking lot. If you park too close, the next person has to squeeze in, they get stressed, they have to contort themselves to get out, now they're angry, maybe they drive more aggressively on the way home because of that one little interaction.
So your bad parking job could effectively cause an accident 3 miles away that you're not even involved in.
Safety doesn't happen in a vacuum. By doing your pre-drive check, you protect yourself. By parking with a little empathy and precision, you protect the community. You stop the cycle of carelessness before it even starts.
That is a fantastic place to leave it. It's not just about the car, it's about the whole culture of driving. Thank you for walking us through this.
My pleasure. Drive safe.
And remember, the drive starts before you even touch the handle. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.